Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Morning Juice. Before I introduce today's guest, I just want to welcome you guys into the space today. I hope that wherever you are, whether you're on your couch, going for your walk, having your breakfast, you're on a dining table, I just want to thank you guys for tuning in today. Look, I love talking to people with heart, people with experience, and people that have dedicated their lives and put in their time and effort to helping other people. So I guess today's guest, I couldn't pass up on the opportunity. She stays in a different state, and even though I couldn't have her here with me today, her name is Dani, and she's a mindset coach in Sydney. So welcome, Dani.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you so much for being here today and for taking the time out to just have a chat to me about your mindset and making, I guess, conscious decisions about your life. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Just, I guess, a bit of background. A bit of your background.
Yeah, so I am Australian. My dad's Australian, my mum is Croatian, so I have a little bit of a mix there, but I've grown up in Sydney my whole life pretty much, so haven't really moved far. I've moved to different kind of suburbs and stuff like that, but I've always been in the same spot. I grew up two sisters, older sisters as well, which is amazing. My parents are actually divorced, which is it wasn't as challenging as what I thought, but I always grew up with Aussie side of the family and then a really strict Croatian side of the family, which I really love the diversity.
For sure. You got a bit of both, hey, a bit of both worlds.
Absolutely. It's amazing. I love culture. I love learning about different countries and culture, and Croatian is just so interesting, and the cooking and all of that goes with it.
Yeah, for sure. And I had a few Croatian friends in school, and we had like cultural days, they'd come with all the outfits and the food. Oh, amazing. The food.
Amazing.
So good. So I guess I mentioned that you're a mindset coach, and I just want to touch on what that is exactly, because I've mentioned that to you. It's not really something you come across very often. I guess what a mindset coach is, and why would someone, I guess, need a mindset coach?
Yeah, absolutely. I always love this question, but I feel like it can be so complex to really explain, and not complex, but I mean, it's like, I wish I could just say like, literally, I change your life. Life coaches change your life. But basically, essentially, to break it down, a life coach has a goal to help a client with their life goals, to improve all areas of their life, to maintain, create balance in the process, and identifying what's most important to them. So a mindset coach will help you in multiple areas of your life. So I guess it's all connected to ultimately your well-being, and are dedicated to rewiring an individual's mindset. So allowing them to be the best version of themselves while unlocking their full potential. A lot of coaches, including myself, we adopt several modalities. So you may have heard previously, or people listening may have heard around NLP and matrix therapy. So NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. So it's a psychological approach that involves analyzing strategies used by individuals and applying them to reach their personal goals. So it really relates to thoughts, language, patterns, behaviors, all learned through experience and specific outcomes. So it's a specific style of questioning. So we ask really great questions, guiding the unconscious mind in like a meditative state, I would say, to provide a deep sense of resolution and understanding for self and others. So,
and it sounds a lot deeper than I would have thought it was, right? You think it's just like, I guess for me, it was always like, oh, maybe they just, like you said, focus on your mindset, but you go really deep into, I guess, the psychological aspect of why we think what we think and changing. It really is all about the mind. That's crazy.
Yeah, and it's amazing that you say that, because it's like a mindset or a life coach can really guide you in whatever area you're at. It's not to say you have to meet this certain criteria to then require a life coach. So it could help you in an area of finance. It could help you in an area of personal growth. It could help you in an area of, bringing more fun and recreation in your life, or identifying your career. But then it can also be used to clear negative influence of people in past events, negative thought patterns, help let go of negative beliefs and emotions, and really work on an unconscious level to unblock what's kind of blocking you, essentially, and then unblocking like sabotaging behaviors and things like that in order to get to where you want to be. So it's really open to so many people.
Right. Yeah, you really do dig deep. And I guess what you just said about self-sabotaging, I guess
Yeah.
most of us don't realize that we do that,
Yeah.
and why we do that. So the fact that you guys even touch on those things is, yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
I really love to reframe like self-sabotaging as well to some degree. Like I know I said it, but I really love
Mm,
to say that self-sabotaging comes from a place of self-survival. A lot of the time we do these things to keep ourselves safe because that's the purpose of our
it
mind, right?
is
Our
right,
mind is to keep us safe.
right,
Sometimes it keeps us stuck. And that's where the word sabotage can come from. So it's more
right.
like, you're either self-sabotaging yourself or it's like
Mhm.
self-survival. You're just trying to do
It
the basic
is
needs to survive.
right, because our mind automatically, whatever makes us feel uncomfortable, we automatically kind of retract from that because that's our body's or our mind's way of telling us, no, it's not a safe place for you, kind of thing, because we're not
Yes,
comfortable with it.
absolutely.
Thanks for that. So yeah, so when I initially, I guess, reached out to you, I did, I guess, mention to you because for those that obviously everyone that doesn't know, I followed Dani on Instagram, and I think we'll kind of touch on that a bit later on in our conversation about how social media affects the way we view things, how we feel about ourselves. And I think I got to a point where I wanted to filter my feed, because the things that were on my feed were feeding my mind, and it was heading down, I guess, a negative path. I think initially when I followed you, there are a lot of things that you had put up on your social media that really stood out to me. So I wanted to read a post that you had put up that, yeah, I think just covered everything and kind of gave me like an aha moment, in a way. So it says, for us to be our best selves, we need to feel confident and comfortable to let go of these ties that keep us stuck and worrying about what other people think of us, to the extent that we stop showing up for our true selves. And I think for me, as I'm sure a few of the people listening in, that will hit home, for us, because like I said, everything that we see on social media affects everything that we do. And we play out scenarios in our mind. So I guess just elaborate for me in your words, I guess, what that means to you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's probably one of my favorites as well, because for so long it took me such a long period of time to understand that. And
Mm,
it did change me, but it's to understand that, growth or finding confidence within and being comfortable and
yeah.
letting go of what keeps you stuck. It's not linear, right? But the
No.
first part to it, and what is the hardest part to start in, is to acknowledge
Mm,
that maybe we are being programmed in society to be worried about what other people think of us. A lot of the time we're probably looking for external validation, and we're looking for
yes, that's the word.
it's usually like the idea that, why do we allow the perceptions of others stop us from showing
Mm,
up in this world, to hold us
mm,
back, to
mm,
blocking you from being your truest self? And
mm,
if you're listening and this has resonated with you, I just want you to ask yourself this question: like, do you find yourself constantly worrying about what people think about you?
mm.
And have you ever stopped to think about how much this is impacting your life, your self-worth, your confidence,
True.
and the way that you show up and the way that you interact with people and the world around you?
Right, right.
So it's really the idea of just coming back home to yourself, let go of
Mm,
expectations, let go of what others are thinking of you, and just
mm,
be your authentic self, because
mm.
that's where the truest of confidence comes from.
Right, right. And I think it's easier said than done. Hey, and especially when I
Absolutely.
read that, I'm thinking, it sounds so simple, but then when you really peel it back, and when I first started, I guess, my self-discovery journey, that's what it was. It's like, you want to be your better self. You want to be, I guess, your true self. And I think, you
Yeah.
go from, say, high school, and being influenced by, say, your friends or your peers, and then you kind of, especially in this area now with social media, you're kind of swayed and pulled 100 million different directions, and you forget,
Yeah.
who you are, or who your true self is.
Yeah.
And so you kind of have to undo, I guess, in a way, all of that. Is that, yeah. And the fact that as a mindset coach,
100%.
that's exactly the thing that you tackle,
Yeah.
is all those, those things that we've been swayed by. You have to kind of undo all of that to
Yeah.
go back to the core of, I guess, who you really are. So
Yeah,
that's,
you couldn't
that's
have said it any
crazy.
better. Like,
Mm,
that's amazing. It really is about peeling back the layers, and it's just to know
mm,
that what has happened and how life has played out actually hasn't played out because it's done wrong by you or you've done
right.
life wrong.
Yeah.
It's because it's
Yeah.
played out the way that it's supposed to play out. And
Right.
sometimes our biggest challenges are our best tests. And when you
Mm,
work through that stuff, you can then identify who you are as a person.
right.
And yeah, like I said, it's not linear, but it's coming back home to yourself and being like,
Right.
who am I?
Yeah.
Like, what matters to me? Like, where do I get my
Yeah.
most confidence from? Because, like, you can, like, I always use this analogy, but like, just say for instance, someone said you had, like, they hated your hair, right? And you hated your hair, you would take that as offense.
Right.
But if someone said they hated your hair, but you thought you looked amazing and it looked unreal, you'd be like, no skin off my back. Like, that doesn't impact me. So it's like coming back internally, because when you fix internally and find confidence within, your external world changes as well.
Changes completely. I totally agree with you. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I guess I just want to break down a little bit more about how hard it can be to not worry about what others say. And I guess through that process of undoing or peeling back all those layers, during that time, you'd obviously would have, I guess, self-doubt, and you'd still be worried about what people think of you. So it's, I guess you're kind of taking, like, say 5 steps forward and then 10 steps back, and you're just forever going back and forth, back and forth. I guess in your opinion and experience, and take time answering this, but where do you think that comes from or stems from, that fear of, I guess, putting ourselves out there?
Yeah. So that doubt and that worry, I feel like a lot of the time, I would be lying if I didn't say it comes from our childhood. And when I say childhood, I mean, like, that's our experiences, our beliefs, our values, our map of the world, because that's what makes us who we are today and shapes who we are. So understanding your map of the world, which is made up by the experiences, influence, values, beliefs, people that have said things to you, things that you've learned and you've modeled into the person that you are today, areas of your life, or, there can be times that doubt and worry comes up because it's a trigger for something that's underlying. It's like a trigger emotion.
Yeah.
So it's like it contributes to that fear of failure and that fear of stepping outside your comfort zone. So worry and doubt, I truly believe, is like an automatic response as a way of keeping us safe, because that's what we must understand, is that our mind is purely there to keep us safe. And knowing that is 96% of our subconscious mind, right? We are programmed every single day, 96% of our subconscious mind. So 4% is consciously decisions that we're making.
Wow.
So 80% of your thoughts that you have today were the same yesterday, and they're likely to be the same tomorrow. So yeah, it's like the primary role of your subconscious mind to keep you safe, but safe equals stuck. So it's identifying that, okay, worry's here, doubt's here, but that's because it's keeping me safe. And the reasons that it's there, it's because that's been your response for so long. So it's been like, okay, how do I take that step further outside my comfort zone?
Right.
Because when you take this, and when you take a step outside that comfort zone, limiting beliefs come up, fear comes up, all these kind of things come up, and take another step further. This is where you see change, you see possibility, you see options, you see growth, you see all of these amazing things that are outside the comfort zone. But unless you take the step, you're never going to know.
No, you're never going to know. That's beautiful. When you mentioned about, someone saying, oh, I don't like your hair, and you think that you do, I guess at the time you don't really realize that, but you do kind of carry those little moments, because it comes from childhood, essentially, those little moments. And so I guess my question is, how does someone go about realizing what those moments are for them? And what is the best way that someone can rewire those thoughts or those moments to, I guess, like you said, live their true self and be confident and comfortable sharing those deeper parts of themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. And something that I'm super passionate about, and something I never dismiss, is acknowledging thoughts and emotions, because they are just a trigger for awakening, right? They're there because they're trying to teach you something, or they're trying for you to get their attention. So the way to identify and to understand something that's got a highly emotional connection to it, or a moment that you felt like you've been put down, or, a moment or a thought that's not serving you, is being able to identify a defining moment is something that has a strong emotional connection to it, right? So like you said, if it's something at school, or it's something that, your parent has said, or it's something that a friend has said, it's identifying that that's there, acknowledging your emotions and your thoughts that come up for it. Because when you can identify that and acknowledge that, then you're able to take the next step to move forward. So if you see yourself, like, remember, if you're going back to having the same, so for instance, if you're having the same thought over and over and over again, it needs your intention and your acknowledgement. I know so many people, suppress it. However, it will continue to show up, like I said. So the first step is always to acknowledge these thoughts. Thank these thoughts for coming, because they're serving their purpose because they're keeping you safe. So it's like, yeah, like, thank you for coming, but I'm going to choose something far more positive and empowering to replace that thought. Because a lot of the time, it's what people say to us, or the impact of some people's words can also be a projection of that person. So it can also be like they're projecting their own thoughts and opinions and beliefs onto you, where you feel, and you've taken that on board. But that's because there may have been some form of lack in that area of your life for you, where you needed to give to yourself a lot more, right? So the impact of those things are, going to keep you down. And it's not to say that people aren't rude and people don't say bad things. They really do. But when it's back on you and it's keeping you stuck, it's keeping you cycling around on the same thing, you're having the same thoughts over and over and over again, you now have the choice and you now have the power to replace that. So it's really acknowledging it, thanking it for serving its purpose, and replacing it, and continuing every time that thought shows up, continuing to break that thought pattern, because that's what happens in our mind, right? I'm going to use my hands. So we all have neural pathways in our mind, right? So they're like strong lines that they've created. So just say over time, over periods of time, you've said this belief about yourself, like, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, or whatever that looked like, because that could have come from someone, and then now you've adopted that and you've believed that to be true about yourself. That's all a limiting belief is. It's not that it's true. It's something that you've believed to be true about yourself when it's not. So just say, for instance, it's creating strong neural pathways, and they're going to stay there. So it's going to be an automatic reaction. It's going to be a part of that 96% of your unconscious mind that you're going to think every single day. It's going to be 80% of that thought that you're going to feel every single day. So what happens is, when you actually break it by acknowledging it, thanking it, and replacing it, you start to break the neuro pathway. So it starts to feel a bit icky, like, you don't yet believe it, but it's like fake it until you make it type thing. Fake it till you become it. So it's like, the more you replace it and say, I am worthy, I am good enough, you then create a strong neuro pathway that then replaces that old thought.
It's beautiful. That's crazy. And just as you were saying that too, it's almost, because it does seem, I guess, a task, but then I think about working out, your fitness journey. You're not always, I guess, perfect. You don't go from A to Z overnight. So I think with our mind as well, we almost should treat it like the same. Almost kind of feeling that as you're speaking, that constantly we should change those neural pathways daily. And from day 1 to day 30, it'll be completely different. But every single day, you got to remind yourself, say, I am worthy, and that you're valued, and all those sort of things, to kind of try and rewire those moments. It's like a habit. It's like breaking a habit, right? Because we've created that habit or that reaction in our minds, and trying to break it won't happen overnight. It's a constant work that you have to put in.
It's the consistency and the repetition of it that creates the changes that you want to see. Like, there's no such thing as overnight success, and anyone that's worked for anything really hard would understand that. So it's really, putting in the work, like, what do you want? Where do you want to be? And doing those steps every single day that's going to get you to that outcome.
Right. I guess our mindset's heavily influenced by, I guess, who we surround ourselves with, our partner, our friends. But I think my next question is, what if it's family? What if it's, because I think that's kind of the hard line to draw sometimes, with people that have massive families. And I'm sure with Croatian, as with mine, I have a big island family. It's you're heavily influenced by, I guess, comments and say the older generation and your parents, your grandparents. And I guess my question is, what if it's our family members that bring us down, or say don't support our business ideas, our lifestyle choices? And what advice, and feel free to speak about any personal experience that you've gone through, because it's hard when it's family. And in your opinion, what is the best way to go about filtering out that influence and maintaining a positive mindset?
Yeah, I love that. And it's something that probably hits home a little bit to me as well, like growing up in like a Croatian family. Look, no one ever really undermined my job, but there was, or what I wanted to do in life, but there was a lot of doubt. So I think it's, I just want to acknowledge and know that this looks different for everyone, in the sense of like the way that we've brought out culture, beliefs, family values. So it's really important to understand the first step is if something is currently going on that's not serving you, just say there is a family influence or there's a comment that's been made. It's really important to understand, especially when it comes from like an adult, that parents parent us the best that they can with the resources that they know. So what they don't know, they don't know. So it's understanding, like, if you're in the current generation, like a younger generation, your parents aren't going to understand probably what you understand today. And that's been a really profound moment for me as well. Like, I had a bit of a journey like just to touch on it quickly, like
Yeah, no, go
around
for it.
eating
Take your
disorder.
time.
So I, was going through this stage where I was very thin. I was very unhealthy. I was really battling this eating disorder, but my mum
Mm.
was struggling to be able to open up to her parents about it, her Croatian parents, because food, just eat. Like that's the
Eat.
solution to
Yeah.
everything, right?
Yeah.
Eat. Like I would go over there and they'd be like, eat, like you're not
Yep.
healthy, eat. But they wouldn't understand on the like the pressure that put on me.
Yeah.
But my mum used to be so distraught about it. And I'm like, Mum, sit down and chat to them and tell them. And she just
Mm.
couldn't. And maybe because that's the way that she was
Wow.
brought up. But I then got to a point where I just sat down with my grandparents and I said, I know you are trying to help me because you think food is the
Right.
solution, but
Yeah.
I'm actually really struggling on a mental level. And I know that I've got a problem, but at the moment, food isn't my solution. I'm getting help. And I really broke it down to them. So they were then aware, but without that awareness, like they still made comments like, you need to eat, you
Yeah.
need to eat. And I'm like, yes, I know I need to eat.
I
And it
know.
just got to a point where I just made it into a joke. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, all right,
Yeah.
I'll eat. Like,
Because
but
you've
it
already
was
had, I
just,
guess, that had that conversation with them. So they're aware of it. It's just like they naturally just like eat food. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. And it's also to understand as well that like parents, when they have a reaction to us and maybe there's that doubt from them, it's actually a doubt in their mind is that they don't want to see their child a lot of the time fail. So it's like, oh, like, I don't know if that sounds like a good idea because they don't have the thoughts that you have.
Mm.
So it's understanding
Mm.
that like, oh, like it's a lot of the time theirs comes from like a protection
Right.
thing rather
Right.
than they're doubting you as such.
Right.
But yeah, this can be really tough for some growing up as they start to pivot and find
Mm-hmm.
their feet of who they are in the world, their
Mm-hmm.
beliefs, their values, they're
Right.
all like modeled into the person that they want to come.
Right.
So it's been programmed into us for so many years
Mm-hmm.
that blood is blood and
Yeah.
you love your family.
Yeah.
However, I know this isn't the case for some, and I want
Yeah.
people to know that that's okay. It's not
Mm-hmm.
easy. It's not to say it's easy, and maybe it will take some practice, but continuing to give yourself what you need from others,
Right.
because in order to feel something externally, like I mentioned before, we
Right.
need to heal that or feel that internally as well.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
And just as you were talking, it kind of it reminded me of having those conversations with your parents or say your grandparents of something that you're mentally struggling with, because I think like yourself, you don't know how to, I guess, bring up the conversation, or you're uncomfortable bringing up those conversations because you always see your parents, your grandparents as obviously your elders, and not necessarily telling them what to do in a way, because you
Yeah.
don't want to offend them in any way and like, oh, my daughter's telling me what to do. But I had this conversation with my dad, and I've had this conversation with family members more recently on a lot more deeper topics, and I found that it's a lot more better, I guess, just opening up and seeing what the reaction is, because you might think that you get a bad reaction, but in all honesty, you probably open up to them and they probably will appreciate it a lot more, and their reaction might surprise you. I'm found, and that's probably a whole nother topic about having that conversation with your parents or your family members, because I guess that step will help you step into your new higher level of self in a way.
Yeah,
Yeah, or true to
absolutely.
who you
And
are. Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. And sometimes it can actually be our delivery or our approach. So if you really
100%.
want to be understood on a deeper level, have a look at how that person is, your mom, your dad, whatever influence is around you, and get on their level. So try and match where they are the most receptive, and then sit down and be like, be raw, be honest. Like, this is really hard for me to talk to you. Like, this is what's coming up for me. This is what I feel. Like, I really want your support. It means a lot to me. And then just really get on their level, and to understand that sometimes our delivery can give us a different outcome.
Right. I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. So I guess keeping all this in mind, our friends and our partner and our past, our family. And I remember watching you speak about this on your stories, but you speak about stepping, like I just mentioned, to a new level of self. And you've spoken about how we can rewire, filter out those negative thoughts, and maintaining, I guess, a positive mindset amongst it all. But more so stepping into this new level of self is what I want to touch on. Can you tell me a bit more about that for people that have never heard that terminology before, and I guess the process around that?
Yeah, absolutely. This is something that I do talk a lot about, but the way that I perceive it is that it means picture your future self. So who does she or he look like? What is their self-talk? How do they carry themselves? What does life look like? What are they doing? What are they hearing? What are they seeing? Like, who are you 5, 10, however many years from now? And then stepping into that person now and being and hearing and seeing and doing and feeling what that person would feel. So just say, for instance, in 5 years from now, you want to be confident, you're going to be working this job, you're going to be dressing this certain way, you're going to be eating this type of food. Then in order to be that person, you must do what that person wants or is doing, right? It's not a matter of having something and then feeling confident. It's about doing the steps and having confidence. So it's like, I really like to see it as like fake it till you make it type thing, fake it till you become it. So it's like, this really is the art to successful goal setting, but it's really as in acting and doing what it is that you desire to do or achieve in your life, or that ultimate version of yourself.
Crazy. So you're a coach, you work full time, and but you're human. And I think that's what I was thinking about, is you're also human. You will have your moments of self-doubt. And I think my question is, what does that look like for a mindset coach, and what tools do you use to overcome those moments for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something that was really hard for me at the start, becoming a mindset coach, because when I would have doubt or I would have these things come up, I'm like, I should know what I'm doing. I'm a coach. And that's where that like imposter syndrome, and that's where it started to be really, it could be really like negative, because I then suppressed my emotions a lot more. So I found the best way to get me through it is I also invest in a coach. Like, I'm always working with a coach, because I wouldn't preach what I don't practice. So like, I truly believe that everyone needs that support to be able to help them through situations. But I've learned to really acknowledge my emotions and my feelings. And I guess a lot of things that come up for me is like, you know, there's beliefs that come up that have come to stem from my childhood, and I've done a lot of work on them as well. Like, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy of being successful, or whatever that looks like. But the way that I overcome this is with like the same techniques that I share and the ones that I teach my clients around acknowledging them, thanking them, like, thanks for coming, and replacing them with something far more powerful. So I journal a lot. So I really am passionate about free journaling. So digging deeper into where my thoughts or my doubt is stemming from, and then ensuring I replace, I guess, negative thoughts with new thoughts. So that, you know, affirmations is something that I'm super passionate about, so that, you know, to stop things kind of coming up as regularly, I program myself around my affirmations. So I have about 25 affirmations that I repeat to myself daily, by whether it's before I get up in the morning, or I close my eyes, it's like close my eyes to go to sleep. I say it in the shower, or I say it in moments of negative thoughts and doubts and worries and whatever that looks like. So just implementing tools and strategies I've learned and adopted, and I share the same way that I would expect someone else to do it.
Yeah. And would you say that those tools or those affirmations, like we touched on earlier, is, I guess, something that you can incorporate in your day to change those neuro pathways?
Yeah, absolutely.
Crazy.
That's like creating new strong neuro pathways, so that my automatic thought is that I'm worthy of being successful. I am good enough, rather than, you know, than ones that aren't going to serve me and they're going to keep me stuck and safe.
Completely agree. I guess my next question is, were you always conscious of your mind, and also what led you to becoming a mindset coach?
Yeah, well, I've always, as a kid, like I was, and I'm still now, a really sensitive person. I really feel my emotions, and I really feel into things. Like, I'm very in tune with my thoughts. It wasn't all linear. Like, I grew up, like, as a kid, very sensitive, but I was very like rough. I was a bit of a tomboy. Like, I love to be outside. Like, I feel like life was pretty just a general kid's life. Like, I was always outside playing in the streets and doing stuff, but I was always like, I would say I was always sensitive. Growing up, like, family and friends have always been something that I'm so like, I love so much, right? You know, I would always be the girl that would stay there till 12 o'clock at night and just talk. Like, I loved talking and hearing about goals and aspirations and hearing about how people feel, and just listening and being that kind of person. I would be the one that would protect people. So if they need someone to stand up for them, like, that would be who I was. So I feel like it's always been in me. Like, there were so many things I wanted to do. I wanted to either be a paramedic, a nurse, I wanted to be a forensic psychologist, or I wanted to be a neurologist. So like, there was always things that it was like helping people, but like, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do it.
Right. So you've always kind of had that little spark in you to want to help others, from like little things like backing your family members up, or
And then going through school, it was always like, well, in order to do any of this, I have to go to uni. Like that was the expectation, right? I was never really good at school, to be completely honest. I was there for the social aspect, and I was there for, just literally to socialize and to play sport. Like school was just like not for me. I remember moving school. So I went from a Catholic school, was never me, the Catholic school, but my teachers loved me. Like I was a good student, but I was also quite naughty. But then I went to a sports school. So that was a really big part of my journey. Like I could play sport all the time. That would be a subject where I'd train and play sport. But it was like, then there was no discipline to the Catholic school, and I just wanted to be good. And I'm like, well, like I'm doing stuff and I'm not even getting in trouble for it. Like what the hell's going on? So like, school's really confusing for me. Hey. And
right.
when I left school, I was probably the most confused I had ever been. It was like, I had identified my life for so long as being a tomboy, being sporty, being this kind of person. And then as I left school, I wanted to shape and to be a different person. But it was like, I was trying to find my identity. I got caught up hanging around different groups, trying to make myself fit in. There was a couple of events that really shaped my behavior in my early 20s. Like I lost 3 friends to 3 separate car accidents. And I was super close with one of them, and it rocked me. So my behaviors changed. I started to dabble into alcohol, partying, and kind of then I wasn't who I was. It was like this new me that was like, this isn't me, but I just didn't know how to stop. And I remember at this time as well, during high school, I had a really big falling out with my mum. So I didn't have my mum around for so many vital and so many important parts of my life. Like, so it was like, I was just living with my dad, and it was different. It just felt, being a girl, then shaping into a woman. That's where I was starting to learn, like, I'm now becoming a woman. But it's like I needed support for so many vital things that had showed up in my life, but I didn't have that mother figure there. And so that really rocked me. So I was in this place where I was stuck, and I knew that I didn't want to be, surrounded with these kind of things. So I was really found myself on a mission to change and fix myself and try to stop all these behaviors. I studied counseling. I changed jobs. I worked in disability care. I started a uni degree. I wanted to become an occupational therapist. I invested in seeing psychologists. I worked through some stuff that I was going through, and then things started to really change. But I still wasn't confident and certain who I was. So I spontaneously decided to make a choice that was like, okay, in order to change me, I can change my appearance. So to change my appearance, I'm going to get breast implants, which I decided to get within 3 months, like spontaneous decision, decided to get it done.
Wow.
And I was with my partner at the time, still with him now, and he is amazing support to me. But it was like 3 months after I got implants, I was riddled with illnesses. Wow. And at that time, we didn't identify that was my breast implants making me sick. So I spent months and months going to doctors, day surgeries. No one could tell me what was wrong. It was just IBS. Wow. That's all I could get told. Wow. I couldn't stomach any food. I would vomit with severe pain, reflux, everything. Like I ended up finding this integrated doctor that I spent thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars with. And I was pretty much told that, I had a list of foods I could eat, and there was about like 10 things on there, and then a whole list of foods I couldn't eat. I ended up taking 40 tablets a day to get me better, like pills and everything that I would take. Certain meals, like if I was staying at my partner's house, I'd have to pre-cook, and it consumed my life. Diagnosed with chronic fatigue. I had leaky gut, candida, heavy metals, whatever they are. If you don't know what they are, I didn't know what they were at the time either. So it was a massive journey. I just hated life. I just honestly got to a point where I was like, who am I? Like, what am I doing? What is my purpose? What is this? And I remember sitting down one day and I'm like, what has caused this? Like, yes, everyone keeps telling me stress. I'm seeing a psychologist. Like everyone's telling me these things, but I'm like, I really sat down and pinpointed back to when it happened. And I'm like, it's my breast implants. Everyone in my family thought I was completely stupid. So I was on my own. They're like, it's in your head. It's not that. And I'm like, I have to get them out. And they're like, no, you just spent so much money. You can't get them out, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, whatever. Did research, went and seen specialist, whatever. And I'm like, it's it. Honestly, it's it. And then I got them out about 1.5 years later. And within 24 hours, my whole life had changed. My family was completely like, what the hell? Like, they pretty much, the doctor said this when I had my surgery, he pretty much said if I didn't have my surgery then, it would be likely that they would have poisoned my whole body and I wouldn't have been where I am today. That was a massive trauma event in my life. And then not having my implants, I had to learn again, you know, the confidence that I lacked that got me their breast implants. I then had to find that confidence again, and went through a really bad eating disorder, completely ruined. Like, I'm not that kind of person I wasn't that kind of person to go through something like that, but I had, and the eating disorder had completely changed my life, and I was sick, debilitated by health. I hated myself. There was no self-love. There was no self-compassion. I didn't love myself to be with someone. Like, I still stuck, like my partner stuck around, but everything in my life, I had just bought a house, got a new dog. I was in a loving relationship. My parents and my friends were amazing. Like, my family was amazing, but I just hated myself so much. And I remember saying to myself, I'm going to commit to 1 year of self-development. And if nothing happens, then I'll make a decision then what I will do. And I said, I'm going all in. Like, and I just went on a self-development journey. I had just done some research. I had then heard this thing about coming back home to yourself, doing the internal work. And I'm like, how the heck do I do that? So I invested in like a coach. I invested in a naturopath to get my health back on track. I invested in psychologists to, you know, get out of my eating disorder and do all those kind of things. So when I seen the profound changes that I could make in myself, I was like, how, like, does this actually, like, this works? Like, why aren't we told this? Like, I'm doing small little steps every single day. I went from putting blankets over every mirror in my house to the blankets being off, and I could look at myself and say, like, I love you. Like, I was doing so much deep work, and I could see the change. And I invested in a coaching course to become a coach, but I did it as personal development. I didn't ever do it with the intention, with it in mind that I would become a coach. That course changed my life and the way that I could change other people's lives. It was just like, this is what I was meant to do. I was meant to go through this shit so that I can then help other women through this too. Help them to find self-confidence, help them to be their best self. And really, like, that's only a small snapshot of kind of where I am today, but really it started as a personal development journey. And now with my story and hope of helping other women to do the same and know that it's possible.
That's so beautiful. Thanks so much for sharing that. That's honestly, and as you were telling the story, I think so many of us have moments in our lives that are kind of like that. You know, you get swayed and you know, turn to drugs or turn to alcohol, and you don't really know what you want to do. You get confused as you leave high school, like most of us do. You kind of take that gap year and you're like, what do I want to do? You get stuck into working and go along life's journey, as you say. But then with you and self-confidence, you think, you know, like for you bought a house and you know, I guess you got breast implants to, you know, boost of confidence. And, you know, you think your life's heading a certain direction, it's kind of going up, and all of a sudden something happens and it just smashes you all the way down. And I know that so many people listening would have had that moment too. You think everything's going so good and, you know, you're kind of on uphill, and then something happens and you smash the way down. You're like, but why? And how do I get out of it? And I guess for you, it's amazing that you're able to, I guess, in that moment, realize, no, I need to just commit for, say, a year. You did, to really work on myself, because it's hard to get yourself out of that spot. And I think that's kind of
100%.
why I was looking for a mindset coach, because those are the moments that most of us aren't trained or aren't told, aren't educated in school, say, on how to get yourself out of those ruts mentally, how to get yourself out of those ruts. And for you, I guess that changed everything once you made that decision. I think that's why I wanted to have you on, because we're not educated and there's not enough information out there to tell us how to get ourselves out of that. When things are going so great and then something happens and you lose everything, how to get yourself out of that, and how to find your true self, because you do really have to peel back those layers to feel like yourself again in a way. So that's amazing. It's so beautiful that you're able to share that with us today. So
and I love the idea, like what changed me a lot as well when I was going through my self-development journey is like, I remember someone saying to me, like, you weren't like this before, or something like, you know, like, look at who you were before. Like if you were that person before, you can be that person again. So
Right.
it's like, do you know what I mean? Like you talked yourself into becoming this, you can talk yourself out of it. It
Out of
just
it.
depends on
Right.
what you focus on. So what you focus on grows. So if you're constantly thinking like, I'm not good enough, or I can't get through this, this is going to
That's
be
what's
too
going to
hard,
happen.
or whatever, it's exactly what your outcome's going to be.
Right.
But when you
Right.
focus on, what you do want, you take the actionable steps that are going to get you there, and you're going to see the results that you want to see in that area of your life.
For sure. Thanks so much for that. I think we're kind of nearing, I guess, the end of then actually I'm sure we could go on like for hours on end. Just to kind of close, and I will ask you, I guess, a few fire questions at the end, but I guess, what are the things you hope that people can take away from the things that we've shared today?
Love this. I hope that people can really take away that like they are the master of their own destiny, and that you aren't broken, and that you can't not be fixed. Like you have the power within to change and see the results that you want to see in your life. Like nothing is impossible if your mindset is in the right place.
Definitely. And I think my takeaway is, I guess, first of all, to reach out to people like yourself, that there are people out there that have, I guess, crazy stories and crazy journeys, and there's someone out there for everyone to talk to. And I think also you don't have to be going through something, right, to reach out to them. You could be in a great spot in your life and still need a mindset coach. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like that's the biggest thing I learned, is invest in yourself is like the biggest investment that you can make. So it's knowing that it's okay. Like, do you know what I mean? You don't have to be broken to get help, or if you are feeling stuck, then there's someone out there that can help you. You said it perfectly.
Again, and I think it's also not allowing us to, I guess, sit in that space for too long. Hey, like yourself, when you went through that, it almost sounds like you never, yes, it happened, and yes, you got pushed down, but you didn't allow your mind or yourself to sit in that space for too long. You were kind of just like, right, Dani, like we got to get up, we got to commit to next year. So I think just social media plug.
Thank you. So Instagram, I'm at Rising Higher Coaching. So just on Instagram and Facebook at this stage, in the process of doing my website, but you can see everything through my Instagram page.
Yes. Perfect. Cool. So I'll ask you my 5 fire questions, and you can answer them in like one word or a sentence, up to you. So first question is, what is the worst advice you've ever received?
Anything that dismisses emotions, like you'll get over it. You'll get past it.
I agree. Cool. Question 2, what would you tell your teenage self?
You can achieve anything. Like put your mind to it and you can achieve anything.
Cool. Perfect. Number 3, what do you know now that you wish you knew back then?
That we have all the resources inside of us, or I have all the resources inside of me that I need to heal or to be a better version of myself. Like everything is within
us. Beautiful. Question 4, what's one goal you haven't completed yet that you want to this year?
Oh God, lots. I would like to take my business a bit higher. So a bit more of a business level. I would like to be able to have a bit more consistent clientele so that I can drop back a little bit on my full-time job.
Amazing. And last question, if you could create one law that everyone had to follow, what would it be?
Kindness, and it's honestly kindness or self-love. Just coming back, just as simple as just be kind.
I agree. Just be kind. Oh, awesome. Before we finish up, is there anything else that you wanted to share before
I think we've
covered everything.
Everything. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate the time and being able to be here.
Thank you so much. I know that we could have obviously delved into so many topics of conversations, but I just want to thank you so much for taking the time out today. I know you have a busy schedule, so it means a lot, and I'm so humbled and honored to have you on an episode with me today and have this chat. So I just want to acknowledge that we need more people like you in the world that are open to sharing, I guess, a deeper knowledge and deeper thoughts and story as well. So thank you again. I hope you have a good day as well. And to everyone listening, I hope you guys had a takeaway from it. I hope it helps you in a way. I hope that it helps open your mind and heal and help an area of your life that you may be struggling with. So thanks so much for joining us, everyone, and have a good day.
See ya. Bye.